The story begins with a very peculiar situation. Recently, a girl has realized that her older brother, Yu Kongming, is quite strange. Yu Kongming is the center of a four-person team. First and foremost, his luck in love is excessive, and they have another teammate who is equally handsome, yet girls only seem to want Yu Kongming. Additionally, Yu Kongming has a tendency to break into people's houses and rummage through their belongings, which no one ever seems to object to. There are even times when she can see the sentences come from his body. She has come to the conclusion that this world is most likely a world within a game. Based on her experience reading stories, the game's character allotment should be as follows: the main character, the female lead, the second female lead, and the second male lead. But how does she know she is the second female lead? If one examines the situation, it becomes obvious. Lin inquires why Yu Kongming doesn't listen to what people say. He angrily responds, questioning what choice they have in that situation. Such fights are common occurrences. Jochinka ponders if there is any way to make them happy. A notification appears. Slap Ling Yao in her face. She is shocked and questions if this is part of the game script. How did she not notice this before? She wonders if she was always such a confrontational person in the script. Despite this, she decides to pretend that she didn't see it. Suddenly, a notification informs her that she has made a forbidden action, which causes her to feel a chill from her feet to her spine. Her instincts tell her that violating the script requirements will have grave repercussions. She becomes uncomfortable and irritated, calling out to Lin and slapping her in the face, leaving a bruise. She apologizes for her actions, but unfortunately, the system orders her to shout and exclaim that she disagrees with how Lin is treating her older brother. The second female lead's mission is to create problems that bring together the main characters. Although she doesn't agree with this, she never violated the script. Yu Kongming apologizes for Joquicky's slap, stating that Jochinka can be very unruly. Jochinka never wanted to change anything. She has the world's best brother and the best friends, which is already enough. She deeply believes that this world is like the stories she has read, and she just needs to follow the script to enjoy the perfect conclusion. A few days later, Yu Kongming inquires if they have seen his book, which is red-bound and flashy. He has been searching for it since yesterday. The blonde-haired girl states that she doesn't know, although she has been very curious about that book for a while. Inside the red-bound book, there are no words, but Yu Kongming often takes it out to read and then write in it. Jochinka wonders what kind of book it could be that makes the main character so interested. Yu Kongming begins to sweat nervously and averts his gaze, telling them to forget it if he lost it, as it wasn't an important item. Lin whispers to Jochinka, questioning if it is that type of book, which makes Yu Kongming upset. He questions if the girl has no shame and if she is a child. Suddenly, the protagonist realizes that the book is in her room. It might have ended up there when she wasn't carefully organizing things. She thinks about telling her brother right away but recalls what Lin had said. She decides to wait before informing him. Holding the book in her hand, she feels extremely nervous but reassures herself that it is just a book and there is no need to be anxious. She opens the book and sees a variety of information. Turns out to be a game manual detailing everything about this world. It is incredible that such a book actually exists. It must be very easy to be the main character. Suddenly, she notices a page about her own information. Jochinka, race, human, support healer type. The heart of Jochinka is one of the 4 divine items, the crimson soul flower. There seems to be nothing special here. She already knows all of this. Then she notices that the book states that if a player chooses to head towards the pool of immortality, it will trigger Jochinka to enter the sacrifice storyline. They are already heading towards the pool of immortality. She is petrified as she realizes what the sacrificial ceremony means. She remembers everything now. The pool of immortality, her childhood dreams of visiting it, and the enemies who had prepared an ambush. During the fight, they secretly poisoned Yu Kongming with mandala poison. This brings the blonde-haired girl to her knees. How could it be mandala poison? In less than half an hour, Yu Kongming will be deceased. What hope is there? Suddenly, the protagonist considers whether the main character can die from poison. If this is the case, this type of situation should be different. She announces that she knows a way to cure the mandala poison. When she declares this, Lin states that if she knew the way, she should have said so sooner, as she made everyone worry for nothing. The second male lead then reveals that it involves the Crimson Soul Flower sacrifice ceremony. Lin's eyes widen as she becomes pale. The protagonist approaches Yukong Ming, noting that he is already awake and must have heard everything they said. He comments on the fact that he can't hide anything from her, but she responds that they grew up together, so it is only natural for her to help him. They grew up together and became brother and sister, so how could he let her sacrifice herself to use the crimson flower in her heart? How could he watch her die helplessly? Meanwhile, the blonde-haired girl cries as she realizes that they can only save him if Jochinka sacrifices herself. She asks Lu if there is any other way, but receives no response other than that it is her choice. The protagonist questions whether her brother remembers when they were little and used to play in places like this. He had said he was her brother and would protect her for the rest of his life. At that time, she was truly happy. Yukong Ming had always treated her better than anyone else. However, these dialogues don't seem right. What should follow is her realization that if she lost her older brother, there would be no point in living. With tears in her eyes, she would summon the flower and tell him not to forget her. But suddenly, she remembers something. Despite his indifference, he doesn't remember how many times he has been through the sacrificial ceremony. He never cared from the start. Suddenly, he coughs and states that she is the most important person to him. But what he actually means is that if she can just die already, he would be pleased. The protagonist hugs him, exclaiming that if she lost her older brother, there would be no point in living. He smirks, thinking that this is the line he has been waiting for. With this line, she suddenly comments that he really thought it would go the same as last time, and she pierces him with a sword. Blood sprays from his body as he falls to the ground dead, and her white dress turns red like a rose. With his less breathe, he questions why, and she tells him that he is too careless. If he must blame someone, he should blame himself for losing the book. That is how she remembered everything. The pool of immortality, the ambush, the mandala poison, and the crimson soul flower in the sacrificial ceremony. As she recalled all of this, her head felt as if it were ripping apart. All her past memories flooded in. But the only thing she didn't remember was how many cycles she had gone through and how many times she had died to save her older brother. All her deaths were merely because he needed materials to forge his weapons. From the beginning, she had been only a tool for the main character to finish the game. Everyone was just a tool to him. She had wanted to see how fake he could really be, and she never imagined such an amusing performance. Thanks to him, her mood has improved. Suddenly, Lin calls her name, but it is more of a whisper as she sees the protagonist standing over her brother with a sword painted red. The protagonist notices that the girl seems to have been crying. She apologizes for worrying them, which frightens them. She declares that there is nothing to worry about. Suddenly, the game notifies that the character has done forbidden actions, but she continues, stating that there won't be any more problems. As she moves forward, the game seems to glitch. A notification appears, stating that Yukong Ming has been destroyed by Jochinka, level unknown. The game is autosaving, and the player is advised not to shut down. In the next scene, her brother appears, telling her not to be scared, as he is here to save her. Back then, she truly believed that as long as her brother was present, everything would be fine. Currently, the system is providing all sorts of notifications. She exclaimed that the sound was too loud, and that the moment her former brother began to disappear. Ling was shocked and questioned if Yukong Ming really died. While Lu wonders what was going on, as far as he remembered, our protagonist could only heal. She couldn't possibly have the power to attack someone. How could she have done it? Suddenly, she declared that she took his life because she didn't want to save him again. Since the main character was going to die anyway, it would be more satisfying to end his life with her own loving hand. Her former friends backed off and declared. Ling shouted that she was not the Jochinka they knew. She took out a weapon and Lu took out his fan. She commented that our protagonist was a devil. The scene shifted to a place where someone exclaimed that the demon race was exterminated. They were very sure of this, as the Xian sect had sent people to personally confirm it. Rumors about that woman were most likely true as well. Someone commented that the demon extermination happened right after he finished training in seclusion. It was really a blessing. The question was, which family did it? Could it be the boy Yu Kongming who became renowned some years ago? Could only be him who could have done something like this. Suddenly, someone declared that Yu Kongming, who was being referred to, lost his life 3 years ago. As far as the examination of the human race was concerned, there was a rumor some time ago that the woman was headed toward the demon race's territory. The guy questioned if they were joking. How could Yu Kongming warrior be killed? This angered the soldier, and he wondered where this idiot came from. Suddenly, a woman dressed in black entered and requested a waiter. She would like a bottle of sake. The waiter directed her to her seat, but a man glanced at her. She commented that the table over there was crowded. The waiter apologized, saying that the table over there was a little broken, so he requested that she please sit over here instead. The white-haired guy questioned why everyone had gone so quiet all of a sudden. He still wanted to hear more about Yu Kongming. The guy continued stating that Yu Kongming was killed by his adopted sister. Qingke had feelings for her adopted brother, whom she grew up with. However, he had fallen for the kind and smartling love, turned to hate eventually when that jealousy consumed the woman. She took advantage of him when he had his guard down, taking his life. He might have saved so many lives. He was a hero and everyone admired him. Yet how could that happen? Suddenly, the woman dressed in black declared that she didn't take his life because of that. She introduced herself as his adopted sister and said that it was for some reason that no matter how she explained, they could never understand. The men started questioning if she was that woman. Suddenly, one of the men activated the demon confinement array, and she was struck repeatedly by magical spikes. Immediately, the men removed their swords and attacked her from all sides, exclaiming to avenge Yu Kongming. The white-haired guy was shocked. He only stared at this. He pondered if they had been waiting in ambush all this time. Moments later, she was pierced with swords all over her body, and the men stood over her, thinking that their preparations had not gone to waste. Thankfully, no one was injured either. It was a huge success. The guy smiled, thinking that the woman wasn't as troublesome as rumors made her out to be. Because of this, it was strange. Rumors about her might also be a joke. Suddenly, she appeared behind them, questioning what they were doing and why they would take the life of their friend. The guy quickly turned around, wondering when she had gotten behind him. Suddenly, the person pierced with swords in his body asked for help, declaring that it hurt. The soldier felt dizzy. It was hard to believe what he had done to his own comrade. He cried out in agony as Jochinka smiled. I never knew that I like crazy until saw this woman. He held his comrade, exclaiming, junior brother, then turned toward the woman, stating that she was a vile woman and he would take her life. He rushed toward her, but she remained composed. However, in an instant, she pierced his heart. Her face remained unmoving and emotionless, as if it were just another normal day. It was so sudden that no one could even react in time. Then they remembered the rumors. There were many rumors about that woman. Some said that she had several muddy black claws to strangle her enemies. Some also said that she stole a heavenly book, which contained answers to everything from the past to the present. Others said she was a terminator of both gods and demons, a one-woman army. Because it was so ridiculous, everyone thought the story was an exaggeration. But the people here were starting to realize these rumors might just be true. She poured herself some sake. With her long spikes, her eyes were red, but her voice was chillingly calm. She inquired what was wrong and why everyone was so quiet. People were always like this. They all came rushing in, speaking of avenging him, yet each time no one dared to move. If so, didn't that mean that only she could move freely? Not long after she declared this, there were only screams for help. Later, she exited the place. Fortunately, her clothes weren't stained by blood or dirt. However, she realized that there was still a survivor. She informed him that she didn't want to hurt him but suggested he not ambush her unless he wanted to end up like the others. She thought she should continue her seclusion training. As she walked away, she took a boat ride and calmly closed her eyes. She realized that, as expected, since he was the main character of the game, this world revolved around him. No matter where she went, there would be people who wished he were still alive. But she wouldn't regret what she had done. She had finally achieved a different ending after going through so much. She wouldn't die by his hands again. Speaking of which, it was her first time going this far. Suddenly, she felt a strange sensation in her heart, almost as if her heart stopped for a moment. She remembered when she had faced her former friends. She had told them that this world was just a game, that they were all being used by the main character. But they told her she was spouting nonsense. She also remembered when she was being hunted because she had taken her brother's life. She cried, wondering if there was anyone who would hear her words. Why did no one understand her? They only saw her as the Demoness Jochinka. They wanted her to die. She wondered if she was dying after fighting so hard to survive. Was this it? Suddenly, she opened her eyes and saw she was younger than before. She pinched her face and looked at her hands. She quickly realized that this was the beginning of the game. The Sien Mountain servants discussed the Zhou family's daughter recently joining their sect. They had met her the last time they went down the mountain, and they said the Zhou family had sent her over alone to the Sien Tian sect. They remembered her as a very gentle child, who always hid behind the adults, too scared to make even eye contact. Also, the new disciples liked bullying the new recruits brutally, declaring that they were just playing with them and that they were very annoying. They thought she wouldn't be able to avoid being bullied. It was such a shame. However, she was definitely not getting bullied. She was beating them like a punching bag. Suddenly, a green-haired girl begged them to save her, saying she was about to beat her brother to death. She inquired what there was to save. These guys couldn't be saved anymore. Every time the beginning started with them bullying people, she then punched him viciously, and the girl screamed. She then smiled, declaring that she was just playing with her senior disciples. They exclaimed that it was fine, and they just shouldn't do it again. They decided to ignore this and get out of there as soon as possible. However, the protagonist appeared behind her, and in a creepy voice, exclaimed, "Miss Senior Sister?" This caused her to jump back, questioning what she was doing. The protagonist held out her hand and asked if she could borrow some paper and ink, as she wanted to write something down. First of all, she can confirm that in her previous life, after she had died, she returned to the start of the game again. This means the Zhou family hasn't fallen into ruins, and she was sent to the young things said when Yukong Ming had yet to join. But how exactly did she die? She's positive that no one named Leslie or Tracy took her life. It seems she felt an agonizing pain in her heart and then lost consciousness. She wonders if it's because of her heart. Yukong Ming's heart and hers are actually halves of the Crimson Soul Flower. The Crimson Soul Flower is a divine artifact. Long ago, it was split in half and its powers were greatly reduced. When she gave up her half as a sacrifice, Yukong Ming not only survived but also gained tremendous power. She finds the 9, but aside from that, there are other things that make no sense. Suddenly, she realizes that the remaining half of the flower has limited power. She was only able to survive that long because she was living off its power. Back then, she had used her half of the Crimson Soul Flower. As a result, when she took Yukong Ming's life in the past, she should have taken his half too. This means that if she doesn't want to die again, she needs to do everything exactly as before. Pretending to be Zhou Qingqi as she was before, meeting Yukong Ming again, becoming siblings, going down the mountain, meeting their friends, and then, after the sacrificial ceremony, taking his life and extracting his heart. But since she has a chance to start again, does she really have to focus on all that? She could actually live a different life from before. She can make different choices. Yes, that's what she will do. She will take Yukong Ming's life right now. Later, the protagonist is approached by Yukong Ming. She inquires how he arrived so fast. He pats her head and says that it's because he hasn't seen her in so long. He really missed her. He tells her to follow him, and he will bring her out for some fun. She thinks that this is so weird. What did she come here for again? She then remembers that she needs to take him out. She searches for her weapon, but it's not there. Suddenly, Yukong Ming inquires if she's searching for her knife. To her surprise, that knife has already entered her chest. He laughs, calling her an idiot. How could he possibly be ambushed by her again? He's the world's main character. He is different from a lowly creation like her. She wakes up from her sleep, sweating, her hands trembling. Even though she said it's best to accumulate, she's encountered a problem she's never had before, and all her former skills are still there. However, her level was reset, and she has no way to use them with her current magical power. Maybe it's better if she delays her plans for later. Leveling up isn't hard for her. It will just take some time. She ponders what she should do. She then realizes that she has one skill left. If that's the case, there won't be any problem. According to her past life memories and the game guidebooks, Yu Kongming lived in Quinju village before entering the Xian Tian sect. As a village of new disciples, Quinju village is small, which means finding out where the main character is will be easy. Later, the protagonist is lying on a table. She wonders why she couldn't find him at all. She has searched for him for 2 days and 2 nights already. She has turned over every leaf in Quinju village, but there isn't a hint of him anywhere. She orders another green plum wine. She thinks this is impossible. The game guide cannot be wrong. She could never possibly forget that guy's face when he was a kid. It makes no sense. But now that she thinks about it, there are many things in this cycle that don't make sense. Suddenly, she spits out her drink, questioning if this is tea. A boy tells her that kids shouldn't be drinking alcohol. In the middle of the day, why is she wearing that? Wouldn't it just attract more attention? The guy looks at her with a cheerful expression, and she is so annoyed. She wonders who the hell this guy is. She's wearing a basic real cloak with 30 defense and 5 attack. Although she bought it from this little village, the value is high even though it's a cheap defense item. Also, it's much harder for people to notice her as long as she doesn't make any noise after putting it on. But if she doesn't use any special skills, people will see her differently. Other people won't be able to see her age or silhouette after wearing it either. It truly is an important item for people committing crimes. The boy comments that she looks like she came to assassinate someone, but she has come to assassinate the main character. Speaking of which, she wonders why the cloak isn't working against him. She drinks her tea, thinking that he's just an NPC. There's no need to answer him. It's fine if she ignores him, but he is waiting for her expectantly. It's completely impossible to ignore him. She questions if he works here. With a smile, he tells her yes. She orders him to extend her his hand. She then gives him a pouch which he thinks is pretty. She tells him that it's money for his bill. He begins counting the money and informs her that it's too much. However, she is already gone. She sits in a tree and wonders if the kid earlier was a capability type NPC or a quest type NPC. He doesn't seem like either. If he's a quest NPC and becomes annoying, if she triggers a mission, she would end up wasting a lot of time. She hopes she doesn't run into him again. However, not too long after, she bumps into him as he's carrying a basket of fish. To make it worse, she meets him as soon as she comes out. It seems that Quincy Village is really small. Since getting rid of her target is urgent, she quickly tries to leave. She's been chased by people trying to take her life since forever. She seems confident in her ability to escape and hide, but he follows her and quickly spots her easily. Whether in a tree or on rooftops, he struggles to make his way to her. She wonders who the hell this guy is. It makes zero sense. No matter how you look at it, NPCs don't have tracking abilities. Since it's like this, she hopes he doesn't blame her for whatever the consequences are. She had escaped all the way to the wild. However, about the main character, she knows he's still in the village, but no matter what, this place is safe and quiet for the time being. Her mind seems a little fuzzy right now. Maybe it's because she hasn't rested in so long. She decides to have a little rest. But not too long after, the NPC followed her as he believed he definitely saw her head in this direction. He wonders why she keeps running away. Maybe he looks scary. He then notices her and thinks she reminds him of a mushroom. He then slowly approaches her face, deciding to wake her up. But she wakes up moments before him and bites his finger. He screams, saying it hurts. It seems like she has no choice but to accept this mission. She poses, trying to look cool, and inquires who he really is and what his goal is for following her all this time. Hearing her words, he is very confused. He tells her that it's not like that. He then tells her to have something to eat first. He saw she only drank tea earlier, so she must be hungry. She sighs and tells him that she's not hungry. He doesn't plan on accepting food from a stranger either. If you want to eat, you should eat yourself. But moments later, she's eating what he brought. She actually didn't eat for 2 days, so she had no resistance to this. He inquires how it was. She responds that she can pretty much swallow it, so it's mid. She asks if he can tell her what he wants from her. He tells her that he really doesn't have goals in mind. He just saw her and thought she was in a lot of trouble. He questions if she's looking for something in Quincy Village. He knows the village really well and smiles, asking her to let him help her. She thinks something must be wrong with this person's head. Normal people see her as a demon, but in this boy's eyes, he is willing to help her. But at this point, she doesn't have any enemies. So maybe he really is just a normal nice kid. She inquires about something, but suddenly a giant snake appears in front of them. She wonders if this place is not a safe zone. How could a monster appear here? It's a level 32 green scale snake. Such a high-level monster too. The boy tells her to quickly run away. He can probably hold it off. But she runs away at full speed. He stares at her as she leaves him in the dust. The snake towers over him, and he looks at it with no fear in his eyes. She wonders how she could win against such a high-level monster, and she can't use any of her skills in this state either. That kid ventured into the wilderness without any skills. Who asked him not to stay in the village like the good NPC he is? It's not her fault. It has nothing to do with her. But she slows down and stops. She sighs. She guessed bad habits die hard. Meanwhile, the snake wraps its tail around the young boy as he trembles. It's so hard for him to breathe, and he's already losing his consciousness. If this goes on, he'll meet his demise. Suddenly, the giant snake is attacked, blowing off its tail. The boy falls on his caught by our protagonist. She smiles, commenting that he's still alive. A skill called Command Retrieve. This is a skill she created after getting the book. It serves to restore the body back to its previous condition. This includes age as well. It seems like it was classified as an unimportant, irrelevant support skill by the game, so its magic power usage is low, but it's actually really useful in the earlier stages. It has healed and can be used to counter any attack at any time, but no one had cornered her enough for her to have to use that skill. Thus, she didn't use it very often, and she really didn't expect that this skill would ever come in handy. The boy looks at her and questions if she is perhaps. She smiles and tells him to take a guess. She thinks that he should figure it out himself. He's a troublesome little brat. The boy then exclaims that this isn't right. It doesn't look right at all. He tells her to put him down, but she dodges a blow from the snake and tells him that it's really dangerous to let him down now. The snake is very strong. She then transforms her dark aura into a spear and comments that even though the snake is a little bug, it dares to challenge her. She pierces it with her spear, splitting it in half with one strike. The boy's eyes glow with admiration, and he exclaims that she's amazing. Moments later, she returns to her original form, which surprises the boy. She originally planned to save this kid to kill Yukong Ming. What should she do now? Store it again and wait a little longer. Suddenly, the boy hugs her and states that he really thought she had just run away. He thanks her for saving him. She thinks it's so sentimental. How long has it been since she heard that line after she quit being a healer? But she is the complete opposite of the person he thinks she is. She had reasons for saving him. He can see through her cloak stealth effect and is able to go in and out of the city borders. Really, no matter how anyone looks at it, he can't be a normal NPC. Perhaps he's just like her and could become a comrade. He then inquired if she was looking for someone before. He asked her to hurry and tell him. He's confident she can find him. She thinks that he's too enthusiastic. They sit on the grass, and she inquires if he knows Kong Ming. He's about the same age as him with a flame mark on his forehead. The boy asks if Kong Ming is his name. She inquires why he's asking that. Does he know him? If he knows him, then that makes things easier once she takes his life. Suddenly, the boy reveals the mark on his forehead and discloses that he is Kong Ming, the one she's looking for. She's confused, wondering if he is talking about the same name or if this is some kind of joke. There's no way that he is the protagonist of the story. He doesn't look anything like that. The way he speaks and acts is different too. But the boy comments that his adopted father said it's better to hide this mark. He wants to know why she is looking for him. She asks him a variety of questions. Is his adoptive father the second elder of the Shantian sect? Did he come across a young lady named Ling Yao back in Qingzhou village? Did he almost die of an illness some years ago but miraculously recover? It seems that he has undergone all of this. It's clear that he is Yukong Ming. But what's going on? This means she actually saved her own mortal enemy. But the question still remains. What's going on with him right now? Did he lose his memory after being killed by her? That can't be. Memory loss can't turn a person into an entirely different person. And he seems a lot dumber now too. Could he be acting this way to fool her? Is there really a need for that? She stands up, placing her hands on his shoulders, and it's clear that she was looking for him because she wanted to bring him somewhere. He inquires where. Suddenly, she takes a knife, pushes him to the ground, and tells him that she wants to bring him to hell. Although she doesn't really know what's going on, she takes his life without hesitation. The crimson sunflower has been cut out by her. There shouldn't be any more problems. But she realizes that something is wrong. The crimson soul flower. Why did it grow this way? At the library, she searches for information about the crimson soul flower and finally finds it. The game guide didn't actually have a description for the crimson soul flower but did mention that detailed information about it could be found in the Shantian sect library. Except, there are too many books here and it's such a mess. Took her 2 days to find anything. She spent a lot of time looking before too. The crimson soul flower relies on the whole spiritual power to live. If its spiritual level is insignificant, the crimson soul flower will enter a state of wilting. If she remembers the guidebook correctly, it said that spiritual power is a direct index of overall power. She wonders if this cycle Kong Ming is a total noob. It also says that if the crimson soul flower is separated from the whole body for too long in this state, it will wither and die as well. This is a problem. She needs to leave the Shantian sect immediately. The original host has been killed by her, and the crimson soul flower is so picky about its host. It's going to be tough to find a new host. The crimson soul flower in her body will reject another crimson soul flower in a wilted state, so it's impossible for her to become the new owner now. This is bad. The main character died too early, which will cause a lot of uncontrollable changes. But she doesn't regret it though. The second elders had planned to bring him into the sect right about now, but with the main character gone, she doesn't know what changes this will cause to her plans. She needs to leave soon so she doesn't get involved, and because she needs to find a new host as soon as possible. Suddenly, she sees 2 boys. One of the boys inquires about what's wrong. He says that the second elder is back and that there's something he wanted to announce. He told everyone to quickly get there. They're not sure what it's about, but he thinks it might be related to that kid he brought back. He thinks his name might be Yukong Ming. Earlier, something had happened. A dark figure with blue eyes was coming. It was a pitiful sight. The woman who did this to him is really cruel. He greets the protagonist and states that he really didn't plan on getting involved, but he can't die just yet. Currently, he is being introduced to his new little sister. She introduces herself and tells him that he can call her Chenchio. He nervously greets her. The second elder comments that since they are siblings, they must look after each other and depend on one another. However, he informs her that he still has a matter to discuss with her new brother, so she should go play by herself. She exclaims, "All right." The elder really looks out for her. He saw she had no one to rely on in the sect, so he had Yukong Ming become her brother. Because of that, she relied on her elder brother since she was little and had feelings of admiration for him. Thus, he was sure she would do exactly as he planned and die as a sacrifice for him, allowing him to reap all the benefits. She sits down, striking a badass pose, and thinks that Yukong Min doesn't recognize her. But what exactly is happening? She's certain he died back then, but she decided to let him live a little longer. This will save her the hassle of finding a new host anyway. But Yukong Ming must die, that's for sure. If she can take his life through conventional means for whatever reason, that's fine. Among the dozens of paths in the game, there are a few that lead to the hero's death. She can use her identity as his younger sister to influence his choices. This way, she can send him down a route in which he dies. It's so easy. It's better that she wasn't recognized. Otherwise, it could have caused unnecessary interference with the plot. Suddenly, the elder calls for her. She is startled and straightens up quickly. He tells her that he still has important matters to tend to, so she must take her older brother around to familiarize himself with the sect. She tells him she understands, while her older brother glances at her. She tells him she will introduce him to the Huazhui Peak first, or if he has anywhere else he wants to go. However, she wonders why he isn't moving. He smiles, stating that he recognized her from before and knew he would definitely see her again. His immortal older sister. She remains calm on the outside but is panicking in fear on the inside. Although he doesn't know why he became her adopted sibling, he's really happy they could meet again. He kept thinking about meeting her again and thought he might be able to see her if he came to the Shantian sect. It's not surprising that he recognized her, but she had plans on how to handle that too. However, this feels weird. She questions if he didn't almost die that day. He comments that yes, but she saved him. She responds that she's not talking about that. She means what happened after she saved him.